All right, so get this. We're diving into this article today, and it asks, does the MCU still need human heroes? Kind of a wild question, right? Especially with all the crazy tech they've got going on these days.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, the
Yeah.
more advanced the technology gets, the less essential the human element seems to be. Almost like those anxieties we have in the real world about AI taking over.
Exactly. Like, remember the early days of the MCU, Iron Man building his first suit, in a cave, pure ingenuity and grit.
Mm.
Then you look at the later movies, and it's all nanotech suits that, like, assemble themselves with a snap.
Yeah, and that's what the article digs into. Has tech made being a hero too easy? Like, if anyone could just slap on a suit and be Iron Man, does that cheapen the whole concept of heroism?
That's a really interesting point. Like, it makes me think about Spider-Man getting his upgraded suit from Tony Stark. Did that take away from his journey as a hero because he didn't have to struggle to build it himself?
It makes you wonder, right? The article draws this parallel to scarcity, how things are often valued more when they're rare or hard to obtain. So if heroism becomes too accessible through technology, does it lose its significance?
That's a great analogy. It's like Iron Man's first suit was this cobbled together, unique creation. It represented his struggle, his ingenuity. But when everyone can have a super suit, does it still feel special?
And this shift isn't just limited to suits. The article also talks about Wakanda. Their technology is so advanced, it's almost like magic vibranium energy shields spaceships. It
Sure.
makes you wonder if Wakandan heroes even need to break a sweat.
Oh, that's right. I hadn't even thought about Wakanda. Their tech is a whole other level. Like,
Yeah.
Shuri's innovations are incredible, but do they maybe make it too easy for Wakandans to be heroes?
Exactly. And it gets even more complex when you factor in AI. The article points out how AI like Jarvis and Edis can operate independently, make decisions at lightning speed, and even control entire weapon systems.
Okay, wait. Let's back up for a second. What exactly do we mean by AI? For someone who might not be a total tech whiz, can you break that down a bit?
Sure thing. AI stands for artificial intelligence. Basically, it's like giving a computer a brain, enabling it to learn problem solve and make decisions without direct human input.
Hmm.
In the MCU, AI is often portrayed as super intelligent computer programs that can do things humans can't.
That makes sense. So with AI, like Jarvis and Edith running around, does that mean human heroes are kind of obsolete? Like, why even bother with Captain America when you've got an AI that can strategize battles and control weapons?
That's the big question the article grapples with. It presents this interesting dilemma. Does the rise of AI diminish the need for human heroes, or does it simply redefine what heroism looks like in a technologically advanced world?
I'm starting to see where this is going. It's not just about the tech itself, but how it changes our perception of what it means to be a hero.
Right. Like, think about Iron Man again. We saw him go from that clunky Mark Eye suit built through sweat and determination to summoning nanotech suits effortlessly in Endgame. The article asks, has technology taken something away from the effort, the struggle that defined his early heroism?
Okay, so that's where the article's idea of effort versus convenience comes in, right? Yeah.
Precisely. The article contrasts those early days of struggle with the ease and convenience of later MCU tech.
Uh-huh.
It's like a mirror to our own lives. We rely on GPS, all this tech that makes things easier. But does that convenience come at a cost?
It's like, do we lose something when we don't have to put in the effort anymore? Like, remember learning to drive stick shift? It was a pain, but man, did it feel awesome when you finally got it.
Exactly. And the article questions whether this trend technology, simplifying everything, might devalue the satisfaction of achieving something through hard work and skill.
So is the article saying that all this tech is making us and the MCU heroes a bit soft?
Not necessarily. It's more about highlighting a potential consequence of relying too heavily on technology. Like, if technology can solve all our problems, what does that mean for human ingenuity and resourcefulness?
Ooh, that's a deep one.
Oh,
And it
you
makes
know?
me wonder, what are your thoughts on that? Okay, so we've been talking about how tech in the MCU might be making things a little too easy for our heroes, but the article doesn't stop there, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It goes on to make this really compelling case for why human heroes are still crucial, even in a world full of, mind-blowing tech.
All right, I'm all ears. What's the argument there?
Well, for starters, the article points to the whole issue of moral decision-making. Like, can AI truly understand the complexities of right and wrong, the nuances of human ethics?
That's a good question. I mean, we've seen AI go rogue in plenty of sci-fi movies, right? But what does the article use as an example in the MCU?
It brings up vision in Civil War. Remember how we struggled with the Sokovia Accords, trying to balance logic and the greater good with individual freedoms? That whole debate about superhero oversight. It showed that even with his advanced processing power, Vision grappled with ethical dilemmas that a purely logical system might not fully grasp.
That's a really good example. He was trying to do what he thought was best, but it wasn't always clear cut, even for a super intelligent android.
Exactly. And that leads to the article's next point. Heroism is about more than just power and gadgets. It's about courage sacrifice,
Yeah.
making tough choices when the easy way out would be to just let the tech handle it.
Okay, I can see that. Like
I
Captain
think
America standing up to Thanos, even though he was totally outmatched in terms of raw power, that was pure guts and determination.
precisely. And think about Black Widow constantly pushing her limits, putting herself in danger to protect others.
Yeah.
These are qualities that go beyond having a fancy suit or a vibranium shield.
That's about what's driving them, their values, their heart, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those are inherently human qualities. It's what makes these heroes relatable, even when they're doing things we could never imagine doing ourselves.
So the article is saying that we connect with these heroes on a human level, even when they're surrounded by all this tech. But does it ever suggest that the technology might actually hinder that connection?
That's where it gets really interesting. The article raises this point about how relying too much on tech might create a distance between the heroes and the audience.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. When Iron Man can just summon a nanotech suit that makes him practically invincible, does it feel as satisfying when he wins a fight? Is there the same sense of risk of struggle that keeps us on the edge of our seats?
That's true. I remember being so tense during that first Iron Man movie, wondering if he'd make it out of that cave alive. The stakes felt real, but when a hero has a tech solution for everything, it does kind of take away the suspense.
Right. And the article argues that this distance, this lack of vulnerability, might make it harder for the audience to emotionally connect with the heroes.
Yeah.
It's like we can admire their abilities, but can we really relate to them if they're operating on a level that's so far beyond human experience?
So it's not just about the heroes being less relatable, but also about the stories themselves losing some of their emotional impact. Like if technology can solve every problem, where's the drama? Where's the human element that makes us care?
You've hit the nail on the head. The article is essentially saying that the over-reliance on technology might rob these stories of their heart, their soul. And if audiences can't connect with those core human elements, then what's the point?
So are we saying that the MCU needs to ditch all the cool tech and go back to the basics?
Not necessarily. The article isn't anti-technology. It's more about finding a balance, a way to use technology to enhance the storytelling without overshadowing the human element.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like using tech to tell even more compelling human stories rather than letting the tech become the story itself.
Exactly. It's about remembering that at its core, the MCU is about people, their relationships, their struggles, their triumphs. The technology is just a tool to explore those themes in more fantastical and visually stunning ways.
So it sounds like the article is ultimately making a plea for the MCU to stay grounded in those human elements, even as technology continues to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely. And it challenges us as viewers to consider how we want technology to shape our own lives.
Yeah.
Like, are we using technology to empower ourselves to connect with others, to make the world a better place? Or are we letting it distract us, isolate us, and make us forget what it means to be human?
Whoa, those are some heavy questions. It's like the article is asking us to look beyond the shiny gadgets and special effects and ask ourselves, what truly matters? What
Right.
makes us human? What makes a hero?
And those are questions that I think are worth pondering, both in the context of the MCU and in our own lives.
It's funny how this whole conversation started with if the MCU even needs human heroes anymore. But this article really flipped the script on that, huh?
It has.
Yeah.
It really has. We started off thinking about all the cool tech and how it makes human abilities almost irrelevant. But, then the article kind of takes us on this journey, and it reminds us of all those core human qualities that even the most advanced AI can't replicate.
Yeah, it's like the tech is awesome, but it's the human heart, the choices you make, the sacrifices that really make these heroes inspiring.
And what's really clever is how the article uses these specific examples from the MCU to drive this point home. Like Vision, struggling with the whole concept of right and wrong and civil war. I mean, that shows us that even a super intelligent android can grapple with ethical dilemmas that go beyond logic.
Right. Or Captain America facing down Thanos, knowing he was totally outmatched, but standing his ground anyway. I mean, that wasn't about super strength or a vibranium shield. It was about courage and refusing to back down from what he believes in.
Exactly. Those moments are what make us connect with these characters even when they're doing things that seem impossible. We see their humanity, their flaws, their determination, and it reminds us that heroism isn't about being superhuman. It's about being the best version of ourselves.
And the article's conclusion really brings it all together, right? It basically says that if technology were to completely take over the MCU, if it erased the human element, those stories would just lose their emotional core.
It's exactly. Without the human element, the struggles, the triumphs, the sacrifices just wouldn't resonate with us in the same way. The stories would feel empty, lacking that heart and soul that makes us care.
It's like a reminder that as cool as all the tech is, it's just a tool. What really matters is how it's used and who's wielding it.
That's the challenge for the MCU moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finding that sweet spot where technology enhances the storytelling but doesn't overshadow the human element. Using tech to tell even more compelling human stories.
So what do you think? As the MCU continues to evolve, how can it strike that balance? How can it keep the human element front and center, even as technology plays an increasingly significant role?
Well, that's the big question, and I think it goes beyond just the MCU. As technology advances in our own world, we have to ask ourselves similar questions. Like, how can we make sure that technology serves humanity, that it helps us connect, create, and make the world a better place?
That's a really powerful thought to end on. It's like this deep dive into the MCU has given us a lot to think about in terms of our own relationship with technology.
And that's the beauty of these kinds of conversations. We can start with a question about a fictional universe and end up exploring these really profound ideas about ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to thank you for joining us. We've covered a lot of ground from Iron Man's evolving suits to the ethical dilemmas of AI. But most importantly, we've been reminded that even in a world of incredible technology, it's the human spirit, the choices we make, and the connections we forge that truly matter. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.